My name is Kole Krafick, and today we are joined by Ms. King for our AHS Spotlight. How are you, Ms. King?
Good. How are you doing, Cole?
Good. How long have you been teaching at AHS for?
I've been here since the opening. I was at Katanning and Elderton before coming here, but I've been here since the school opened.
And what do you teach?
I'm a social studies teacher, so right now I currently teach ninth grade U.S. history and military history. Taught some other classes over the years, AP US, sociology, and some other classes at other points, but primarily ninth grade U.S.
Has ninth grade US been your favorite class to teach so far here?
Yeah, I like the content. It's my favorite content to teach. If we look at what we get to teach throughout the course of that year, that's my favorite subject. That's the stuff that I'm most interested in. The military also is one that I really enjoy. It's a class that I helped start, kind of wrote everything for it and developed everything for it. So it's another one. It's fun, and also it gives me a chance to have upperclassmen, juniors, seniors, which is also nice to get kind of the difference in grade levels.
When did you start that?
We started that. We were at Katanning still, so I think the military started probably around 2009 or 10.
Have you always planned on being a history teacher, or have you?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to do something, especially as far as high school teaching would go. I was kind of torn between science and social studies, which is kind of a weird combination because it's usually, science and math, English and social studies. But I did really like science and I like social studies. And when I got to college, started thinking about it, I decided to go with social studies.
Was history your favorite class in high school or throughout college?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I liked a little bit of everything. I wasn't necessarily in love with the class, with a lot of the history classes, but I liked the content. I liked, when you travel, when you see kind of the history and you get to experience history. I always liked movies that were historically based. I think that was one thing that kind of got me into it a little bit more was, books, movies, that type of stuff. I mean, I liked it in high school, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily my favorite subject. I don't really know what my favorite subject would have been in high school, but like I said, I kind of like the sciences. I like some other classes too.
Typically, how long do you think you're going to be teaching here?
Well, I'm at almost 20 years, so, probably at least another 10 would be the expectation, kind of depending on how things play out, obviously. But, I plan to finish my career here and be here however long that takes me.
Has Armstrong High School been your favorite out of Katanning and Elderton?
Yeah, they're all different. It's hard to really pick a favorite. I think what we have to offer here is great. I was excited to come here. I went to Katanning, so obviously there is some sentimental value to Katanning, and there's things that I do miss about there. That were kind of different, but at the same time, sometimes different is good. And there are elements that you love about both places. But, what we have to offer here, the facilities are beautiful. You look at even thinking of the TV studio and what we went from at, Katanning to here with some of what's available to us and having the variety of kids and everything. It's hard to say one is better than the other, but, there's differences. But this has definitely been, I think, great for our community, great to have the facilities, as the sports facilities, everything's here. It's fun being here after school and seeing so much different stuff going on. At Katanning, everything was a little more spread out. Some of the fields were different places. So anytime you're here, there's always something going on, whether it's something in the auditorium, something sports-wise. It's really neat to see how much goes on up here.
Are you involved in any of the coaching or club activities at the school?
Yeah, so I coach golf. I coach a girls' golf team, and I've coached that. Not the first year here, but I've been on that for, I think it's been 8 years. So I've had that for quite a while. I did help with softball for a year here, but that was just kind of a volunteer, kind of helping out. At Katanning, I coached a couple different sports. I helped with basketball a few years. I coached softball a few years. I coached the varsity hockey team for a couple years. I was assistant coach there too. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything at various points. And then I'm also one of the senior class advisors, which that I also started at Katanning. So I've been doing that since 2010. So entire time here, I've been one of the senior class advisors.
How do you like coaching the golf team at Armstrong High School?
It's fun. I really enjoy it. Golf's kind of a little bit different sport from some of the other ones because, it's not as public. With some of the other sports, you get crowds there, you get people there, and there's the excitement to that I miss. But, to me, golf is a lifetime sport. It's something you can do your entire life. So I think it's important that they learn to play. And, we've had some really good years, and we've kind of developed a program where we're getting some really good players. We've had some success. Some girls qualify. We've made team playoffs a couple times, so that's been very exciting. But it's really neat to see how much some of the girls advance and how much better they get over the years. And like I said, it's a sport. I played a lot of sports throughout my career. And the one that I'm still able to play, physically capable of doing is golf. As much as I love all the other ones and the other ones that I've coached, I know this is something that they can take as a lifelong experience and something they can do the rest of their life.
So you did enjoy playing golf in high school and college, or did you get into it later?
I played golf in high school. I had actually started pretty young. I didn't play competitively until high school. But my family, my grandpa was very big into golf, so he had us out hitting at a driving range and playing a little bit. So I had a little bit of experience coming into high school, but I just played through high school. I played hockey. That's what I actually played in college. I went to Penn State, and I played on the women's ice hockey team there. So I played hockey since I was 4 years old. So that was something I grew up playing. Softball was another sport that I played pretty much my entire life. Played basketball at various points, tried some other things, tried volleyball, but it just got too time consuming with all of them. So my high school, I did golf, hockey, and then softball.
You said hockey at Penn State?
Yes.
How was that?
Loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was club when I was there, so it wasn't quite as competitive maybe as a varsity NCAA sport. But we were good. We had some success. We took third place at nationals the one year, which was the best season we had. But it was fun. If I look at my time at Penn State, the people who are still my closest friends, my best friends, are the girls that I played with throughout my years there. And it was just fun. We had a good time. You got to travel together, spend a lot of time together, still play competitively. And we had some pretty good teams when I was there, and a lot of success.
For this upcoming golf season, do you guys think you're going to be pretty good this year?
Yeah, I think we're going to be competitive. Obviously, some of the teams we play against are pretty tough, so it's hard to say exactly where in the section we'll fall. And they are realigning some of the sections, so I don't know exactly which teams we're going to be up against. But we have a couple good returners. Clara Toy did make it to Whippy last year for individuals, and she'll be a 4-year starter, so that's obviously we're going to depend on her a lot. But we do have some younger girls, some that have developed, really taken on to the sport and have really started working at it. So I think we're going to be competitive. We're going to beat some teams. I do think we'll compete for one of the playoff spots. I'm hoping to be right there, and I think we have a pretty good chance at that.
You said the conference was getting switched around. In your conference, do you guys play teams locally?
Yeah. So last year we had Indiana, Fox Chapel, Kiski, Plum. I'm trying to think who else. So yeah, pretty much local. That was our section anyway. And then we played some other teams like Butler. We did a little bit of traveling, we played Blackhawk and Norwin, and there's some teams outside the section. So I wouldn't expect too big of a change. A couple years ago, I know Butler was in our section, and then they weren't. Same with Mars. So it's probably still going to be pretty local. It's just a matter of where exactly they'll line up.
How has your year been going so far with teaching?
This year, very good. Every year's a little different, but it's also kind of the same. I've been teaching 9th grade for a long time, so it's kind of interesting to see, how kids kind of perceive things differently and everything. But so far this year, I can say it's been going very well.
You have some pretty good students,
yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, I can't complain too much about them, But yeah, no, they're a nice group this year, and I'm enjoying working with them.
Do you talk to Miss Lockard at all about anything history-wise or just anything about that?
Yeah, we work together a lot. Obviously now she's teaching mostly 11th grade, so the content's a little bit different, but, we still talk a lot. Our little corner, Mr. Paul, Mrs. Lockard and I, we're always talking history stuff and sharing things, and even though we don't necessarily teach the same things, we still kind of know a lot about the same things. So, we'll talk about different things and joke around different things, show videos of different things to one another.
Do you have like any like PSSAs or keystones or anything?
No, nothing that I teach is tested, so we don't have that pressure.
That's nice.
That's nice.
Do you talk to anybody else around the school that like you are like kind of friends with or have like a connection with, I guess?
Yeah, I think a lot of the teachers get along and have friendships outside of the school. I've spent a lot of time over the years with Mrs. Kotick and Mrs. Douglas. Good friends with Mr. Mulroy. We see each other a good bit outside of school. So there's a number of teachers that I've known a long time too. Mrs. Burkett, Mrs. Kidder, Mr. and Mrs. Landstrom. We all went to high school together. Mr. Miklos and I graduated together. Mr. Culligan is my cousin. So, there's a lot of connections that we have. Mr. Culligan and I obviously are close and spend a lot of time together, for that reason. But there's a lot of teachers here in the building that I've went to high school with. And again, so we have those friendships. Mr. Cloak and I obviously now work together as class advisors. Plus we were in high school at the same time also. Subbing wise, Mr. Hobaugh, obviously we coach together, so we spend some time together. So yeah, I think for a lot of teachers, it's a big school, so you're not necessarily super close to everybody, and there's a lot of newer, younger teachers that maybe don't know as well yet. But there are a lot of people that we spend time with and see outside of school also.
I'm really glad that most people in the school do like know each other. And how is being a class advisor? Yeah.
I enjoy that. Being senior class advisor especially is a lot of fun. We get to deal with graduation, working with graduation, which can be stressful, obviously, because you want everything to go well because it's a very public event. People are there, so you want it to be organized and planned out. But we get to do a lot of fun stuff. We get to do the class trip, take the seniors wherever they decide to go, which we always have a good time on that. And it's not super stressful, like junior year, I know they have to plan and do everything for the prom, which can be a lot. Sophomore years, they do a lot of fundraising. So for us, we kind of get the benefit of what they've already done in that we get to plan everything around graduation. We get to plan, all that type of stuff, helping pick like what your class song and all those things. So it's more the fun stuff of senior year that we get to experience with them.
You said that you guys go on a class trip. Do you guys have anywhere planned out or anything to do?
Well, we're still figuring out this year because we were supposed to go to New York City. That was our initial plan, but we didn't get enough kids signed up for it because you have to have at least probably 30 kids for it to be economical with the busing and everything. So we didn't get enough kids this year. So we'll probably look at a day trip somewhere, whether it be Kennywood or Cedar Point, something like that. We'll find something to do. It just won't be an overnight trip where some of the years, and it's kind of gone, some years we do an overnight trip if we can get enough kids. Other years we've just done kind of the same thing, day trips.
I'm kind of glad we do those trips here at your senior year before you graduate.
Yeah.
Something fun.
It's nice to be with your friends. It's kind of a nice, always towards the end of the year, it's kind of a nice little get together, get to be with your friends.
Do you plan on teaching history or US 9 history the rest of the time you're here?
Yeah, I love the 9th grade course. Like I said, it's my favorite stuff to teach when you're looking at like World War II and Vietnam. The content that we teach is my favorite. Plus, I get to try to teach today, and what's kind of neat about it is I got to get a little further each year. When I first started teaching, I didn't have to teach about September 11th because the kids knew about September 11th. Where now we're getting to the point where we're even far beyond that. So I've had to look at making some adjustments, maybe not spending as much time on some of the early part of the content to start getting to post September 11th into Iraq, Afghanistan, which I'm looking at trying to get a little bit further with. But, even teaching September 11th is one that I really enjoy because it's something I experienced and I can really give firsthand account to it. And also, like, kids see the connection to today. You know, when we teach World War II, you can see how it aligns with some of the events that are going on today, whether it be, you know, the situation in Israel and Gaza, those types of things. You can really start to see the connection to where we are today, and that's why I like teaching that.
You said you like talking about the whole 9/11 thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was probably one of the more interesting things for me, because just hearing about like where people were and like what they were doing when that happened was really cool.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's a day that people remember.
Yeah.
You know, we always remember that time, you know, regardless of how far we removed we are. And you hear the same thing about something like Pearl Harbor. You know, people who were alive during Pearl Harbor, you know, even into their 80s, 90s, could still give you details about that day. And I think for those of us who were alive for September 11th, you know, it's going to be the same thing. And you'll get things throughout your lifetime too, you know, that you're going to have, that you remember. There's going to be historical things that have that type of impact on you. And so it's such a different topic. And, you know, one of the interesting things about September 11th teaching it is I can show it. You know, we have videos of it and you have firsthand accounts. And that's what's kind of neat about the more recent part of history, is we have more, I can show videos and we can look at things kind of in a different perspective.
If someone was planning to go to college to go teach and get their degree for teaching, is there any advice you would give them?
It's a lot of work. You know, it's not easy being a teacher, and it changes almost every day. New challenges, you know. Even I look at throughout my career, you have the changes in technology, you know,
Yeah.
from where I first started using an overhead projector. You know, my first classroom didn't have any of this, any computers, to now, you know, AI and everything. It totally changes every dynamic in the classroom. You constantly have to be a lifelong learner too. And like I said, you have to pick something that you're going to want to teach, that you're going to enjoy teaching. You know, for me, I love history. I love what I teach, which makes it a lot easier to come to work every day. So pick something that you know, if you're going into education, that it's something that you really want to do and are going to be passionate about.
You said that if you want to go into teaching, you should really try and aim for something that you enjoy. When you go to college, like, would that be your main major as like?
Yeah, so there's some different options when you go into education as far as what you want to do. If it's high school wise, you pick a content, you pick an area that you want to go to, whether it be science, English, math, you know, social studies. If you want to get into, you know, health and phys ed, or you want to get into family consumer science, you want to get into, you know, tech ed, something like that. So, you know, you kind of have a direction, you know, for us, for social studies. You know, I didn't pick U.S. history per se. I focused a lot on U.S. history and took classes that were centered more around that. But, you know, you kind of pick the content area that you like, because you could end up, you know, you go into math, you might be teaching 7th grade math, or you might be teaching, you know, calculus.
Yeah.
So it's not guaranteed as far as what you're going to teach, you know, but you kind of pick whether you want to work with the younger kids, you want to go elementary, or do you want to go high school? Do you want to, you know, you kind of have to have at least somewhat of an idea to kind of narrow down, not just general education. Now, there are some general education courses you take, but you kind of have to pick and choose kind of what direction and which direction you want to go.
You said about the technology and the change over the time that you've been teaching. How much of like an impact has it made, or like, has it made it easier?
It's made it different. You know, there's a lot of differences with it. I think in a way there's some easier to it. You know, things like AI are great tools, you know, and it can help us. It can help teachers too. It can help us find things, and it can help us do research and stuff too. And so I think in a way it's made it easier. But at the same time, we also have to be closer in how we monitor things, you know, where kids are getting their information. Are they just, you know, using AI and finding something and not actually thinking for themselves? So I think, you know, part of the challenge for me is when I first started teaching was incorporating more and more technology, and now I'm kind of going more and more away from technology, you know, giving more like hard copies of things and reading assignments and that sort of thing. So there's good and bad to it. You know, there's tools and things that have really changed stuff. but it also becomes challenges with things like cell phones and, because how kids like to be on their cell phones, sometimes would rather be on their cell phone than listening. So, what type of rules to put in with cell phones, I would say we do a lot more in class now. I think when first started teaching or back when I was in high school, we had a lot more homework, a lot more stuff done outside of school, but it's hard to monitor whether you're actually doing that yourself or whether you're just finding the answers somewhere else. So it's a lot nicer to just do it in the classroom where you can see what they're doing, where you can see what kids are working on. Even if they're on computers, you can kind of still monitor what they're doing a little bit closer. So I think it requires us to get a lot more done in the classroom and not quite have the same type of expectations outside the classroom.
I feel like more kids like that around the school is just in class learning more than homework and trying to do it out of school.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's there's still a time and place for some homework, and I know some of your classes like math and some of that, you got to have that outside work. You got to have reading and English. You got to read the books and stuff outside of class. So it's not necessarily everything has to be done inside of class. It just makes it harder to give work that you can ensure that students are doing on their own.
do you plan on having a final at the end of the year?
No, I usually do a project, try to find something that kind of pulls everything together. It kind of depends on how far I can get. Now, the last couple of years, I've been ending with a September 11th final and kind of focusing everything on that. There's been different points where I've used cumulative finals, at other points I haven't, but I kind of like just kind of keep building on it throughout the course of the year and kind of referencing back to stuff, not necessarily putting it into a final.
You said you do a project. Do you do multiple projects in a year, or is it just usually like one or two?
Yeah, usually a few different ones. Again, that's something I used to do some bigger projects. I feel like now I do a lot more smaller projects, smaller in-class assignments. There's some different things that incorporate. It's not just all book work, I guess. I try to incorporate a lot of activities and different things throughout the course of the year, some that might take a day or two, some that might be a little bit bigger projects. But I think that's another area I've changed. I used to do a lot bigger projects. I think now I do a lot more smaller kind of day-to-day projects.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. King. And that is the end of our AHS Spotlight.